you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, my name is Erin. I'm a registered respiratory therapist and I am also a first-time mom to a toddler. I am a new grad therapist. I've only been working since the end of September, so I'm just trying to figure all this stuff out. Being a new grad is a totally different experience than I thought it would be. It's totally different than school, and I love every second of it. I love being an RT, I love being a mother, and I would really appreciate it if you went ahead and subscribed and joined my family. We would love to have you. So now that I've given an awkward intro, today's video is just going to be a Q&A. I've asked you guys to send me questions either on comments or on Instagram, and I've gotten a few questions, so I'm going to answer those for you today. And I just wanted to let you know that if the light is weird, like if it goes from really bright like it is now to really dark, that's because it is very cloudy outside and I cannot control the lighting, so I am sorry. Oh, and here we go, it's getting dark. Oh, and also that cord right there, that's to the vacuum. I just vacuumed and I am a slob, so I did not put the vacuum back. So there is a cord behind me on the floor. Hey, welcome to my channel. So in no particular order, I have the questions on my phone and I'm just going to go down the list and answer them to the best of my abilities. Okay, so the very first question I have is, can you include how you give report? I've always wondered what is important to pass and what's not. So this just kind of depends. So if it's on the floor, I'll ask the person, like, how do you like report? Because some people like to know details, like go down the list of patients that they have, what oxygen they're on, what their SAT is, what meds they get. Other people like to know just the highlights, like is there anything important, like do they need a sputum sample, like if they had like an episode over the night where they desatted, just like any important information that wouldn't necessarily like be included on the sheet that's already prepared. Because the way Epic works is, and that's what we use to chart at my work, is Epic. We have a little spot on our chart where there's a list of things that they get, like if they are on oxygen, what meds they get and how often, and if there are any tests that need to be done. If there's, you know, just little details that wouldn't be on that list, like if the person refuses their treatment, or if they have like an attitude, or you know, just little details like that. Some people like just the highlights, which is me. Like I can look in the computer and see what treatments they get at what time, but some people like to know the little details. So just ask, how do you like report? What do you want to know? And then if I'm in the ICU or the unit, I will tell the person, especially if it's somebody that hasn't had the patient already, I'll be brief, but give like a few details here and there, like what they have, what vent changes I made over the night, what I've heard the doctors talk about, like if they're gonna go to CT later that day, or if we made a CT trip that night, if they're gonna have a procedure, or if they're talking about doing a procedure, like if they have a lot of secretions, also if the patient has an attitude, because the other night I had a patient that tried to bite the nurse and I whenever we were doing trach care, and so I just let the day shift therapist know that, like, hey, he is a biter and he doesn't like when you suction him, but he really needs it because he's really junky. Even though he doesn't like it, like he really needs it. Stuff like that. So you'll learn. Report is, I'm not gonna say it's difficult, but it did take me a little bit to get comfortable giving report, and I'm still not completely like good at giving report. Sometimes like I'll forget things, and sometimes I'll give like too much information. So like ask the person what they want to know and they'll let you know. Especially like if you're new, you'll kind of get the feeling of what's important and what's not, but basically just what oxygen they're on, if they're satting okay, any important events that went on during your shift that they need to know about, and like what vent settings that they're on, like if you made any changes. Some people will tell me during like report, like what exactly, like what settings they're on, like what mode, what tidal volumes, FiO2, PEEP, all that. I just let them know like the changes that I've made. I won't go down the list and, you know, tell them the entire bit of like what all the settings are, because they can look at it and they can see it. So it basically just depends on, you know, what the shift after you wants to know. And like I said, you'll get good at it as you do it more, but you know, just FYI, stuff like that. Like, you don't have to give them the whole entire rundown of everything you did for them through the night, just the basics. Can you show what you have on your badge reel, like what badge buddies you use during work, or what helps you or has helped you? So this is my badge reel. I am not going to include like my work badge, just because that's work. And so let me take that off actually real quick. Okay, so I'm not going to include my actual badge because it has my hospital list on it, but this is my badge. I actually need to change it. It says I put out for Santa. I need to change it because it is not Christmas anymore. But I just have my chapstick on here, a little flashlight, and this, I call it a wedge. I got it in a Ballard kit, and it helps with either opening boxes, like you just kind of stab it with this little bit here and you just open the tape off the box. I've used it for that. I've used it for wedging the ET tube like apart, because that's what it's really for, is just helping kind of take the ET tube apart from any like adapters that it's on, because they can get stuck. But I like to keep that on my badge reel. And I also have several little badge buddies. So these I got from work. This one I'm not going to show you because it has like numbers and codes for doors. This one has what, like when we change what equipment, like how often we change neb cups, ambu bags, vent circuits, just how often and what shift, because certain shifts change certain things. Like for example, on Monday nights, every 2 weeks, we change out vent circuits. So night shift will change vent circuits every Monday night if they've been used for 2 weeks or more, or not necessarily for more, because they should only be used for 2 weeks. So whatever. Another example is that day shift in the morning will change nebulizer cups, I think every 3 days, I think, or like every Monday, I don't know. But just what equipment gets changed and when. And then this is the protocol for our hospital on how we do spontaneous breathing trials. So I'm actually, like day shift does this and they do this in the morning. So I actually don't use this one. I just like to keep it for, like if I need to pick up a day shift or something, I don't know. I've never done a spontaneous breathing trial on a patient like using this protocol because I've only ever worked in the unit on nights at my hospital, so I don't ever use that, but I don't really want to take it off because I feel like I might use it one day. So this one is another one that my hospital gave to me. Actually, these next two are. This one is how to respond to law enforcement. This one is how to respond in an active shooter. This one is in case of fire, like how to use the fire extinguisher. And then this has like the different like codes on it, like code blue, code black, code pink, stuff like that. These are actual badge buddies that I have purchased, and I'll link these down below. This one is a tidal volume chart. I don't really use this one too often, but again, I'm not getting rid of it. I used it more in school than I do actually on the job. This one is ABGs and their normals, and like help interpreting ABGs. And I have only ever used this like if I'm just completely stuck on what a gas says. So I've only ever used this like maybe 2 or 3 times. And then this one I use nightly. This one is oxygen devices and the oxygen they give. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There we go. So, and I mainly use it for like whenever I'm setting up a new device and whenever I'm running a blood gas, because our blood gas machine asks what FiO2 they're on, and if they're on like, you know, 5 liters nasal cannula, instead of just doing the math in my head because I'm a bad RT, I can just look on this little chart and get the FiO2 to put in. So it kind of just saves me a little bit of math. So those are the Badge Buddies I use. And again, the ones that I bought online, I will link them down below for you so you can buy them if you feel like you need them. Okay, so the next question asks, do you like night shift a lot more than day shift? Absolutely. I love night shift, and there's nothing against day shift. Like, day shift is a lot busier as far as like there are a lot of people there are a lot of protocols you have to do on day shift. Like there's, you know, all the doctors, all the procedures, things like that. I don't mind the busyness of day shift. I really like the people. Gosh, I am in no way saying that the people on day shift are bad or rude and I dislike them any way, shape, or form. I like the people I work with, everybody, day shift, night shift, any shift, everybody that I work with, I just love everybody. But I bonded a lot more with the people on night shift. Night shift is, don't get me wrong, my phone fell off my leg and it scared my dog. Don't get me wrong, night shift can be busy. It just depends on like the patient load, you know, what all they need, what if you need to make, you know, emergency CT trips or somebody you know, it just kind of depends. And night shift is not, you know, the lazy shift that, you know, some people like to make it out to be. I just feel like I'm a better personality match with the people I work with on night shift. Like they're mostly younger people, and I don't know, there's just certain, like I said, certain personalities. Like we all seem a little more introverted. We kind of have the same type of humor, and it's mostly just personality similarities is why I like night shift a lot more. And also I was a night owl many years ago before I had my son, so I just feel like working nights is a little bit better for me just because of how I am and how I like my schedule to be. Okay, so the next question says, can you talk about your work routine and what's included in each round, like what time you start your rounds? So I will do kind of just like a quick overview because it'll be different at each facility. On the floors, I will get report and then look in the computer and make sure that all of the orders are together, make sure I'm not missing that anybody needs a scheduled blood gas or sputum sample or whatever, and then write down any kind of like important thing. My hospital has Q4s given at 8, 12, and 4, like 8 p.m., midnight, and 4 a.m. And then Q6s are 7 p.m. and 1 a.m. So I will kind of strategize where I'm going to first based on if the person gets a medication and what time. So I will start on whatever floor is either the busiest or has meds due first. So say that I have floors 6 and 8. Floor 6 has 2 Q4s, but floor 8 has a Q6. I will do floor 8 first because the Q6 is due first. And my hospital, you have either between an hour before and an hour after the med is due. So if the med is due at 7 p.m., you have between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. to give it. So I will go to the 8th floor first, give that breathing treatment, and then look to see what other things need to be done. So if a person gets an incentive that you have to do with them, or a flutter treatment or CPT, then I will go check those. Pulse ox checks are not due until 11 p.m. So on my second rounds, I will go do like pulse ox checks, so stuff like that. So if a person just gets a pulse ox check, then I won't, you know, do that first round. Like I'll go introduce myself just so that I can lay eyes on them, but I won't, you know, stay in there and, you know, do that because again, they're due at 11, which is considered the next shift, and that's a whole nother thing. I can explain that later if you want me to. But yeah, pulse oxes are due Q shift, and well, I'll just go ahead and explain it now. So a shift is 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., and then 11 p.m. to 7 p.m. Yeah, so that's why the pulse oxes for night shift are not due until 11 p.m. because it's Q shift. So I will do my Q6s on 8th floor and do the other little things on 8th floor that I need to do, and then I'll go down to the 6th floor and do my treatments there, because, you know, like I said in my example, the 6th floor gets Q4s, and Q4s are not due until 8 p.m. So I have between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. to actually do them. So if I don't get down to the 6th floor until like 8:15, then that's okay, even though it's not, they're due at 8 o'clock. I have until 9 o'clock to do them. And so I'll do my treatments first again, and then go on and do like incentives and CPT and stuff like that if I need to do that afterward. So the next rounds I will start, depending on how many treatments I have, I will start anywhere between 11 and 12, like 11 p.m. and midnight. And then I will do my pulse ox checks, any Q4s I have, and then towards the end of my rounds, like closer to 1 a.m., I will do my Q6 treatments because they are due again at 1 a.m. And then for 3rd rounds, I would normally have like my incentives and O2 rounds done, so I'll basically just go to any one that I need to see that's either getting a Q4 treatment, or like if I have somebody that has a trach, and I forgot to mention this, I go see my trach patients Q4 as well. Trach patients or laryngectomy patients, I'll go assess them, suction them if they need to be suctioned. We, at my hospital, the RTs, for some reason, they don't do trach care. The nurses do that. So I don't do any trach care, but I don't mind assisting if a nurse needs some help. But yeah, for my trach patients, I'll suction them and I'll check on them Q4. So for my last rounds, I'll either go check on my trach or Larry patients, go see any Q4 patients that I have, and then that's basically it. 3rd rounds is usually like the only time I only have like maybe 2 or 3 people to see. 1st rounds is definitely the busiest because I do see everyone, and 2nd rounds is also kind of busy because I do have to go to every patient and do pulse ox checks, like if they're on oxygen. If they're not on oxygen, you don't have to do that. So I feel like that was everywhere with me explaining, and this is why I say I can never be a teacher, because I suck at explaining things. So I hope I did explaining like rounds justice. If I didn't, I will be more than happy to elaborate and then just do it a little slower. I am so bad at explaining things, and this is why I don't like sit down videos, because I'm not an organized person, and it takes organization to sit down and talk about stuff like this. So if that is not a good explanation, I will definitely go over in better detail in an actual detailed video. So if you want a video on rounds and what I do and what rounds consist of, let me know. Okay, so my next question is, how are you able to effectively manage your time in RT school while also juggling family life? Any tips and tricks? I have said this 1,000 times, and I will keep saying it because this is so important in juggling anything, especially if you have, you know, family and school and whatever. Plan out your day or your week or whatever. Plan. Like, write everything down. I was so big into my planner, like it looks a hot mess because I had to write everything down. I even bought like one of those dry erase calendars for my wall in there. That way I could just keep everything straight. I wrote everything down at the beginning of the semester, like in the calendar view of my planner, like all the due dates and lab days, what classes are on what day and what time. And then for each week, I would go in at the beginning of each week and go into detail what assignments are due on what days and what days I want to work on what things. And that helped me get ahead in my schoolwork, so I wasn't just kind of randomly doing things as I thought about it. So that actually helped me get ahead. So I had free time, which was few and far between, but I had it more so than I would have had it if I had just randomly did the things. So I would write everything down, plan everything around school basically, and I also had help from my mom and my aunt and from Matt, my son's dad. So that was a really big help. I was fortunate enough to have a good support system and a good family to help me with him. And thankfully, and another reason I was fortunate, I only have one child. So I applaud anybody who goes through any kind of school with multiple children. Like, and even with one child, like I struggled really hard, but I felt like planning everything out, writing everything down was a huge reason that I was able to successfully juggle everything, because I had to stay organized, and basically I had to get really good at time management. Okay, so this next question says, I started school 3 weeks ago and I'm learning about gas laws and calculations. Any tips and tricks for that? So for learning any equation and really any definition, which is basically what the laws are, I was big into note cards. So I would write the name of the equation on the front and then the actual equation on the back. So I would look at it and be like, you know, the PF ratio equation, which is just, you know, FiO2 divided by PaO2, or is it? I don't know. But whatever the name of the equation is on the front, I would write the equation on the back and then just do it that way. And the same with the laws, like, hell, what are the name of the laws? Shoot, I have been out of school too long, you guys. Like, I cannot remember anything. So basically things like that I just needed to remember and like memorize, I would just do flashcards. If you are not a flashcard person, you might want to also, I guess, just like write them over and over and over again. That's another way I would remember them, is just by muscle memory, so just writing them over and over. But those are the two methods that I use, is just flashcards and writing it just over and over and over again. What were some of the interview questions that were asked? Were they questions about personal aspirations, or were they quiz questions? Example, what are rescue breaths? So my school did not quiz us on anything. So we were not quizzed on what a rescue breath was, or what, you know, the liters per minute nasal cannula, you know, like any kind of quizzy questions, because you don't know that yet. Like, you haven't been taught that yet, so how would you know? My school basically just asked us personal questions like, why did you become interested in respiratory therapy? Why do you think you'd make a good respiratory therapist? What is something good about you and what is something bad about you? You know, questions like that. And they're really looking for, at least, like I said, this is just my school, they're looking at your personality. They want to know if you will be a good fit as a respiratory therapist, because it takes a special kind of person to deal with intubated patients and patients who need oxygen therapy. And you're also working with patients of all age groups, so like preemies all the way up to geriatric patients. So they're really just looking for your personality, how you are, if they think that you're a good person, because they can tell the questions that they ask you and how you answer them. They can tell like who you are and how you will handle things based on how you answer questions. So they shouldn't, now they may, I have no idea, they should not ask you quiz type questions, because I mean, you haven't been taught any of that stuff yet, so like, how would you know? That's just how I feel. And the very last question that I have is, how was the pay when you first started working? So I have not gotten any raises yet, but I will be completely open and honest with how much money I make. I work in North Louisiana, so pay will be completely different for wherever you work, what facility you work at, so just keep that in mind. So again, I work in North Louisiana. I work at a level 1 trauma center, and I am a registered respiratory therapist, so I won't be talking about how much the CRT makes, because I don't really remember. I just know how much I make as a registered therapist. So my base pay, what I make baseline without any shift differentials or anything, is $27.15. Because I work nights, I get an extra $4 an hour. So I make $31.15 on weekdays at night, just working a regular night shift. And then on weekends, I get an extra $2 on top of that. So if I work so from Friday to Sunday, whenever I get off, I make $33.15. And then if I get over, I think we work 12-hour shifts, 84 hours a pay period, so every 2 weeks. And if I work more than that, I get time and a half, which I don't remember what time and a half is right now. But on just any regular night, because I have night shift, I make $31.15 an hour. And let me look up and see how much I made, like after deductions and everything, on one of my paychecks. Let's see. Okay, so I just picked a random pay stub, and I made, like I worked full-time hours, so I got my 84 hours, and then I also had, I think, yeah, 8 hours of overtime. Oh, and my overtime is $45.29 an hour. So that's how much I made for overtime pay. So for this pay period, I made, after taxes, $2,309.65. So I make about $4,600 a month based on like this pay stub, which that was just a basic no holiday time, a little bit of overtime pay stub. Like each pay stub is completely different, because I did get like a holiday bonus on my last paycheck. Sometimes I don't work my full 84 hours. Sometimes I don't get overtime, so it just depends, but about $2,100 every 2 weeks is what I get paid. So it's nice. It's definitely a lot nicer than I thought it was gonna be. We're very comfortable with what I make because Matt and I make a decent amount of money, so we're able to live very comfortably, fortunately. And like I said, I live in Louisiana, so if you live in California, obviously your pay is going to be a lot more. And if you live somewhere with a lower cost of living, your pay is not going to be as much. So it just kind of depends on where you are, if you're registered or certified, or if like your hospital that you work at too, because some hospitals pay less per hour than mine does, like in the town that I work at. So that's basically it for this video. I say this for every single sit down video I have. I'm sorry if it was all over the place. Again, I'm so bad at explaining things. If you want a more detailed video on how like my rounds go, I can be better organized for that, because all I had written down were the questions. I didn't really go over how I was gonna answer each one, so it was kind of just like random, but I hope I answered your questions and was insightful. And if you need any elaboration on anything, please feel free to comment or DM me on Instagram or whatever. I will elaborate or answer any questions that you have, other than the ones that I already just answered, as best as I can. I've mentioned this before. I have a study guide on the CSE, like what I use to study for the CSE, and I uploaded it and you can download it. I'm not charging anything. You can have it for free, like free 90 free. It's totally free. You don't have to pay anything for it. I'll leave that in the description box below. It is just for the CSE. Now, I cannot tell you how many people have gotten mad at me because it does not include TMC content. And I will tell you now what I've told them. I did not make this study guide with the intent to upload it. I made it for myself. I only needed it for the CSE. So I'm sorry that I did not include TMC content on there. I don't know what else to say other than I'm sorry, it's not what you expected, but it's free. Like, how can you complain? I'm sorry. But yes, it's for just the CSE, not the TMC, and I will link it in the description so that you can download it. Again, completely free, you don't have to pay for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here. Thank you for listening to my bit of a rant that I just had, because it's kind of annoying whenever people get upset over something that's free because it doesn't have what exactly they were expecting. I will leave it alone. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you know anytime I upload a video. And I will see you in the next video.